on the value of incorporating migrants and refugees in our diversity map. And in this context, I take the word value to mean benefits and advantages. Are there any benefits or advantages in incorporating migrants and refugees in our diversity map? And what value can we place on the life of a human person? Pope Francis has rightly said that migrants and refugees are not pawns on the chessboard of humanity. He has said that the earth is our common home and we are a universal family. Together, we are called to build a common good, that is to create conditions in which each person can realize his or her potential. He invites us to treat migrants with acceptance and solidarity, to empathize with them, and to recognize their value and human potential. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that all migrants are entitled to equal protection of all their human rights. I urge leaders, he said, and people everywhere to bring the global compact to life so that migration works for all. Trinidad and Tobago is a multi-religious, ethnically diverse society. Indeed, we were founded on the ideals of diversity, for example, religion, ethnicity, culture, etc. We should view our diversity as an asset. Sadly, the global number of forcibly displaced people, including refugees, has doubled since 2010, according to UNHCR, and is higher now than it's ever been. 82.4 million people worldwide were forcibly displaced at the end of 2020, forced to flee their homes. Among them are 26.4 million refugees, around half of whom are under the age of 18. The 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees and its 1967 protocol defines the term refugee and outlines the basic rights which states should afford to refugees. As a result of its location, Trinidad and Tobago is both a destination and transit country for mixed migratory movement. In our country, there are migrants and refugees from over 30 countries. Many, including Venezuelans, continue to arrive on our shores illegally through our porous borders without any screening. For more than 30 years, Living Water Community, a Catholic ecclesial community, has been working as the implementing partner for UNHCR to meet their needs. In the absence of the necessary legislative framework, the Archbishop appointed me, CC, at the Catholic Commission for Social Justice to work with Living Water Community, and he set up the Archdiocese Ministry for Migrants and Refugees in 2018 within the commission that I chair. And we work with other NGOs and government agencies also. Trinidad and Tobago has signed the treaty, the 1951 treaty, but we are a dualist state, and so we have to incorporate that treaty into our domestic legislation. As we know, social exclusion is a complex and multidimensional process. It involves the lack or denial of resources, rights, goods, and services, and the inability to participate in the normal relationships and activities available to the majority of people in a society. Trinidad and Tobago's diversity map really should be inclusive. The World Bank has said, and I want to quote some of the major international organizations to talk about inclusivity. The World Bank has said in every country, some groups confront barriers that prevent them from fully participating in political, economic, and social life. Social exclusion robs individuals of dignity, security, and the opportunity to lead a better life. Unless the root causes of structural exclusion and discrimination are addressed, it will be challenging to support sustainable inclusive growth and rapid poverty reduction. Social inclusion, the World Bank says, is the right thing to do, and it also makes good economic sense. Left unaddressed, the exclusion of disadvantaged groups can be costly, and the World Bank goes on to outline how costly it can be at an individual and national level. I won't go into that. I believe we already seen the value of having migrants and refugees in our country here. Many are making significant, creative, and inspiring contributions to Trinidad and Tobago, as well as to their countries of origin. The International Organization for Migration, another international organization, states that the positive impacts of migration for both host and origin communities have been well documented. However, they are often underreported or unacknowledged in public debates. According to migration policy research, there are three main categories through which migrants contribute to their communities. Sociocultural refers to social and cultural factors such as habits, traditions, belief, and some of the sociocultural contributions of migrants to host communities include food diversity, the creation of new music and sporting achievements. Then there's civic political. It relates to solving problems in the community through volunteering, engaging in political processes and government offices. And then there's the economic dimension, which describes activities involving trade, industry, or money. Immigration has been shown to stimulate economic growth and contributes to the global GDP. In their destination countries, migrants are involved in a multitude of economic activities, and research shows that both low and high-skilled migrant workers have filled labor shortages, thereby facilitating increased productivity in certain sectors. And just look at what's happening to Britain at the moment, when many of the migrants are not there to see about 120,000 pigs will be culled, milk is being thrown away, no lorry drivers. Studies also suggest that migrants are more likely to become entrepreneurs. Around every corner in Trinidad and Tobago, you can find these gyros and other food places, for instance. They are resilient, the migrants who've come, and with a growth mindset. They want to work. And this develop and overcoming the challenges involved in moving to a new country. They're resilient and they're doing what they can to survive. Another important report is the World Migration Report in 2020. Migrants enhance global innovation, the report says, in 4 ways. Migrants' higher concentration in economic sectors tend to be more innovative. Through patents and entrepreneurs, they also contribute. And their greater contribution to business startups compared with natives is really high. And they foster investment, trade, and technology linkages. Migrants also make significant economic contributions to their own countries and communities of origin through numerous channels, as we know, including remittances. Phyllis Ross and her team from that World Migration Report, they said while the media reports migrants focus on numbers of arrivals, returns, and deportation, it is important to remember that migrants play diverse sociocultural, civic, political, and economic roles in both their origin and destination countries as workers, students, entrepreneurs, family members, artists, and much more. Then we have the report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, who wrote about, is migration good for the economy? Benefit or burden? What's the reality? Yep. They've said that migration impacts 3 areas. Migrants affect the economy in labor market, the public purse, and economic growth. Migrant workers make important contribution to the labor market in both high and low skill occupations. Employment is the single most important determinant of migrants' net fiscal contribution. Migrants are playing a significant role in the most dynamic sectors of the economy. Migrants are thus not a burden to the public purse. And they don't arrive here as empty vessels. And that's what we have found on CCSJ. Migrants arrive with skills and contribute to human capital development of the receiving countries. So migrants and refugees are good for the economy. There's a report, an analysis of 30 years of data from Western Europe that refutes suggestion that asylum seekers and migrants pose a financial burden. But migrants and refugees searching for safe havens and opportunities benefit their host economies within 5 years of arrival, suggests this analysis of 30 years of data from 15 countries in Western Europe. The model suggests that within 2 years of an influx of migrants, unemployment rates drop significantly and economic health increases. The conclusion of this study contradicts the idea that refugees place an excessive financial burden on a country by sucking up public resources. And that science was published in the Science Advances in 2018. Hippolyte Dalbis, an economist at the Paris School of Economics, he led the work. He said, we have shown that historically it has not been a cost, and that if you do not welcome immigrants, the economy might be worse off. Michael Clemens, who's an economist at the Center for Global Development, a think tank in Washington, D.C., rightly warns leaders, if you slash immigration for cultural or security reasons, you will pay an economic price.